Cauchy-Riemann equation. So this is the statement. Let a function, complex function, f of z, which is equal to u plus iv, be defined and continuous in some neighborhood of this point z. Z is always expressed as s plus iy. Y a function. This is a point. This is a function. Here, it is known that u and v are functions of x and y only. Now, if the first partial derivative of this u and v exists, we have known that u is a function of s and y, v is a function of s and y. Then we say that Cauchy-Riemann equation, it states that partial u partial s is equal to partial v partial y, and partial v partial s is equal to minus partial u partial y. So this is what we call Cauchy-Riemann equations, because there are two. This is one, this is another one. If you want to show that a function satisfies Cauchy-Riemann equation, then we need to show that the du dx is equal to the v dy, and these two. And this one defines an analytical function. So let's prove it. By definition of differentiation, we know that f prime is same thing as limit of delta z tends to 0, delta w, delta z. Where did we get w? This f of z. We normally say that f of z is equal to w. So this f of z simply means our w here. And this is how we normally write it in our O-level calculus. We normally write it as f of z plus delta z minus f of z over delta z. So when we recall from this, so we can rewrite this thing. We can also rewrite this thing as this. This delta w, since we know, we have said w simply means f of z, and our f of z is u and v. In that case, this delta w will be the same thing as delta u plus I delta v from this place, divided by delta z. Here we know that z is s plus iy, so delta z will be delta s plus I delta y. So we can do it like this, and this has turned to limit. Also, this delta z itself, we need to write it like this. It can become, this delta z will not turn to delta s tends to 0, delta y tends to 0. If you are in our last class, you know how to deal with this limit, this kind of limit. How do we do it? We first turn delta s tends to 0, and we equate delta y to be equal to 0. So this will be delta s tends to 0. Anywhere we see delta y, we equate it to be 0. So that at the end of the day, we have du dv over delta y is equal to 0. It's not tends to 0. Over, it will remain only delta s, which can be written as delta u over delta s plus I delta v over delta x. If you take the limit, the whole of this one becomes partial u partial x plus I, this is I, the whole of this limit and this one becomes partial v partial s. We call it equation 1. Now, you observe that when we found the limit, we equated the delta y to be 0, and we turned delta s to 0. So we can continue that it's still the same thing as tending delta y to 0 and equate delta s to 0. When we equate, it's different from tending. When we equate delta s to 0, what we are going to have left is the u dv, this one is dv, over this one would be equal to 0. It will remain I delta y left, which can be written as delta y tends to 0 into, if I separate it, I will have delta u over delta y, there's I in this place, plus this is I delta v over I delta y, this is v here, if you take the limit and this one, this will become, you can see that there's 1 over I here, which I have taught before. 1 over I is same thing as minus I. And delta u over delta y as the limit will become the u dy. Plus I cancels I. This one will become the v dy. Sorry, this is the y. I'll call it equation 2. So we now see that our f prime of z is this. Our f prime of z is also this. For these two equations, for this derivative to be equal, by definition, these two limits must be the same thing. So we cannot equate it by saying delta u plus this must be equal to, I can write delta v plus delta vi minus I delta u delta y. From this place we equate the real part to real part, and the imaginary, we compare them, the real and imaginary part. So we will now see that the u is equal to the v, the u ds, that is, we can see that the u ds must be equal to the v dy. Also the v dx must be equal to what we have here. You can see the I is cancelled. This will be minus the u dy, and this is called Cauchy-Riemann equation. That is what we have here. So we have proved it. Now a consequence of this Cauchy-Riemann equation is in the following theorem. It's in this theorem. The theorem is a necessary and sufficient condition for a function to be analytic is that Cauchy-Riemann equation must be satisfied. What this theorem is trying to say is that for a function to be analytic, it must satisfy Cauchy-Riemann equation. Or if a function satisfies Cauchy-Riemann equation, it simply means that the function is analytic. So let's prove it. Anytime we are having necessity and sufficiency, we have two proofs there. For necessary, I will say 1. For necessary condition. For necessary condition, we have proved that here. This is the necessary condition. Because we have shown here that this function, the derivative of the function exists, and the function is satisfies Cauchy-Riemann equation. That means the function is analytic. The derivative exists. So in this case, the necessary condition has been proved. So we now need to prove the sufficient. So for the sufficiency of the theorem to exist, so we now need to prove it. Now, how do we prove it? We start by saying delta u by definition. This is O level calculus. So we know that this is, if we are using definition from the first principle, we know that our delta u is this. Where we normally start by, if anywhere we see u, anywhere we see s, we say s plus delta s, y plus delta y. At the end of the day, we make delta u the same formula, it will be this minus this. Here we know that u is a function of s and y. That is why we are having s plus delta s, y plus delta y. So from this place now, this expression, this one, let me start by this. We know that this one is always true. So in this case, this expression can still be written as this. It can be written as this, minus u s comma y minus u into s this plus u into s comma y plus delta y. So we observe that this one is here. These two, if you subtract it, it will be 0. So I have subtracted it and I've added it. So in this case, I can still write it as this. u into s plus delta s, comma y plus delta y, minus this one here. That will be minus u into s, comma y plus delta y, divided by delta y. You know, I've divided, I can multiply too, so that I won't just put anything there anyhow. It remains this. So that will now be, the next one will now be this here, u into s, comma y plus delta y, minus u s, comma y over delta s times delta x. I have packed these two together and these two together. I divided these two by delta y and I multiplied delta y. These two, I divided them by delta s and also multiplied by delta s. So by definition, the whole of this would just be delta u over delta y plus, let's just say L1 delta y. Also, this second one would have been delta u over delta x plus, let's say, k1 delta x. So this is what we are going to have. So similarly, we can do for dv. Similarly, without writing all this without rewriting all this thing, we can similarly say that dv will be equal to dv dy. So we can say that dv dy plus L2 delta y plus dv dx plus k2 dx. What we need there is this, the w dz. So we now know that the w is equal to du plus I dv. Du plus I dv. And what's our du? This is our du in this place. So by expanding, it will give me du dx dx plus du dy dy plus, this will be k1 dx plus L1 dy. If you expand this, similarly, plus, now there will be I in this place. I into, if you expand all this, it will be dv dx delta x plus this one. If you expand, dv dy delta y plus k2 delta s. I'm expanding, and the last one plus L2 delta y. Now let's move to another page to continue. Now this is another page here. If you observe, the ones that are having delta s, we can bring them together. So when we bring them together, that delta w will become du dx plus I dv dx, because there is I here. Delta s is common to them. I can do the same thing for this, for the one with delta y. That will be du dy plus I, sorry, this is dv plus I dv dy, everything in delta y. Now it remains this two, k1 plus k2 plus ik2. So I can say that I can just put k there, k delta s plus this one too, L1 and L2. They are constant, they are arbitrary constant. I can say that L delta y, where k is what? Where k is k1 plus ik2. L is also L1 plus L2. So that's our the W. But what do we really need? We need the W over the Z, like this. The W over the Z. Now, before getting the Z, we still need to rewrite this one. Now, let us now say by Cauchy-Riemann equation. What is Cauchy-Riemann equation? The U ds is always equal to the V dy, and then the U dy, or let's say the V dx, is equal to minus the U dy. So in that case, I can apply it here. I will apply it to this second one, so that our delta W will be delta U delta S, partial U partial S, dV ds delta S plus, this is the U dy. If you make the U dy the same formula here, we have minus dV dx plus I dV dy. Our dV dy here is du dx delta y plus these two, k delta s plus L delta y. So if you expand this now, or if you expand without, so that we will not make mistake. If you expand, you are going to have this. So from this list, you observe that the U ds is common. So I can factorize. I will have ds plus I delta y du dx. Also, dv ds is common as well. So if I factorize, I can still have, this is dv dx. I will have I delta x, this is another dv dx, minus delta y, then dv dx plus k delta s plus L delta y. But this has to be in this format too, so that we are going to have delta y, delta s plus delta y du dx. How do we simplify this? We can just multiply both sides by I. This is minus. So I is here. If I multiply, I will divide by I. So there will be no I again. If I divide this one by I, it will be plus I. This is minus. If I divide, minus divided by I will become plus I. So there is another I here, plus k delta s plus L delta y. So that if you expand, I times delta s will be delta s. I times I is minus 1, which is this. So we observe that this circled one is just our delta z. Du dx plus I, this is delta z dv ds plus k delta s plus L delta y. So from that place, delta z is common. So we can write it as delta u delta s plus I partial v partial x, then delta z plus k delta x plus L delta y. So these are delta w. What do we do now? We need delta w over delta z. So in that case, we divide by delta z. When we divide by delta z, I will take the limit as delta s tends to 0. We divide by delta z, I will take the limit. That will be limit of this delta w over delta z is equal to, this will leave, it will be du dx plus I dv dx. This will go as delta s tends to 0, delta y tends to 0. Because if they say that delta z tends to 0, simply means delta s tends to 0, delta y tends to 0. So this is what we are going to have, and that will be f prime of z. So this simply means that the derivative. The derivative exists. For the two cases we consider, derivative exists and it is unique. So in that case, the proof is complete. So here now, we have shown that the necessary and sufficient condition for a function to be analytic is that Cauchy-Riemann equation must be satisfied. So let's consider example under Cauchy-Riemann equation. Example 1. Verify whether or not the following satisfies Cauchy-Riemann equation. So solution. We know that our z cube is same thing as s plus y all cube. And if you apply binomial expansion, that should be s cube plus 3s squared iy plus 3s I squared y squared plus I cube y cube, which can be equal to s cube plus I3s squared y. This I squared is minus 1. It will be minus 3s y squared. This I cube is minus I cube. So we now need to know our u. Our u is the one without, our u is the real part, that is the one without I. While our v is the imaginary part, that is 3s squared y minus this. This is our u, this is our v. So we need to differentiate the u ds. If I differentiate this, I will have 3s squared. If I differentiate this, I will have ordinary 3y squared. Also, I need to have the u dy. So what's our du dy? The u dy, this is 0 minus. If I differentiate this, I will have 6xy. I'll do the same thing for this, dv dx. I'll differentiate. If I differentiate this, I will have 6xy. If I differentiate this with respect to s, that is 0. Also, dv dy. Dv dy, if I differentiate this, I will have 3s squared because I'm differentiating only the y. If I differentiate y cubed, I have 3y squared. So you now observe that the u ds is equal to dv dy. They are equal to each other, which is equal to 3s squared. Also, you observe that dv dx is equal to minus the u dy. They are equal to each other. If you put minus here, it will be plus, so that it will be 6sy. Hence, we can say that Cauchy-Riemann equation is satisfied. So the Cauchy-Riemann equations are satisfied there. So if you want to consider the second one, f of z equal to the second one, I'm not using z again. I'm not using that. Let's use exponential z. Exponential z. We know that z is s plus iy. By indices, I can write it as exponential s dot exponential iy. But by the theory of complex number, which I have treated before, exponential iy simply means cos y plus I sin y, which if we expand, it will give me es cos y plus I es sin y. From that place, I will take my u. My u is now exponential s cos y. And my v is exponential s sin y. So I can now verify these differentiations. When I verify it, I will find the u dx, the u dy. I will find the v dx, the v dy. The u ds, if I differentiate this, is exponential s. The u dy, if I differentiate sin y, I will have cos y minus cos y. So the u ds will now be exponential s cos y. If I differentiate this with respect to y, I will have minus exponential s sin y. Also, the v ds, our v is exponential s sin y. Therefore, the v ds is still exponential s sin y. And our dv dx and our dv dy will be exponential s cos y, because if I differentiate sin y, I will get cos y. So you now see that Cauchy-Riemann equations are satisfied because the u ds is equal to the v dy, and then the v dx will be equal to minus the u dy. Therefore, Cauchy-Riemann equations are satisfied. So in that case, we can say that this function is analytic in any domain because Cauchy-Riemann equations are satisfied. So we can say that these functions are analytic. So we have more examples that you can lay your hands upon. You can try this. Show whether these two functions satisfy Cauchy-Riemann equation or not. So if they satisfy Cauchy-Riemann equation, it means the functions will be analytic. Now let's move to another interesting topic. Now we consider harmonic function. We say that a function, a complex function f of z, which is equal to u plus iv, and that function is assumed to be analytic. We say that it is said to be analytic. It is said to be harmonic if this real part u and this imaginary part v, u and v, satisfy the Laplace equation. We say that this function is harmonic. What do we mean by Laplace equation? That is, if we can write it like this, d square u dx squared plus d square u dy square equal to 0. Or if you say d square v dx squared plus d square v dy square equal to 0. This is Laplace equation. So if u and v satisfy this Laplace equation, we say that the function f of z is harmonic. So if you want to prove the harmonic, it's very simple. I will just, since the function is analytic, since f of z is analytic, then we know that it must satisfy Laplace. It must satisfy Cauchy-Riemann equation. It must satisfy Cauchy-Riemann equation. And by Cauchy-Riemann equation, we recall that the u dx is equal to the v dy. And we know that the second one is the v ds is equal to minus the u dy. From this list, let's differentiate this one with respect to x and the other one with respect to y. So this will be the square u dx square. We are differentiating with respect to x. This will be the v dx dy. And if you differentiate this one with respect to y, this will be the square v dx dy is equal to minus. We are differentiating with respect to y. This will be the square u dy square. So I'm differentiating this side with respect to x and this one with respect to y. From that place, you will see that this and this are equal. So that means we can equate these two. So we have the square u dx squared is equal to minus the square u dy squared. And if one comes in, we have this is equal to 0. So it satisfies, therefore u satisfies Laplace equation. So we can as well differentiate this one with respect to y and this one with respect to z. So we are going to get this second one. So that simply means that if a function is analytic, then it must be what? It must be harmonic. The harmonic. Now this u and v, we call them harmonic conjugate of each other. Now let's take example. Example 1. We want to show that f of z is equal to this is harmonic. To show this, we just need to find u from this and we need to find v from it. We need to know our u and our v. U will be the real part, v will be the imaginary part. Firstly, we know that z is x plus iy. In that case, this one will be x plus iy all cubed minus 2 into x plus iy squared plus 3. Here we need to simplify, expand and simplify this I to bring out the one that has u, but I will not need to show that. You show that on your own. But when we do that, we are going to have this plus 2y squared plus 3, then plus I into 3 s squared y minus y cubed minus 4sy. So in that case, I will know my u. My u will now be s cubed minus 3s y squared minus 2s squared plus 2y squared plus 3. Definitely, this will be my v. My v will be 3s squared y minus y cubed minus 4xy. From that place now, I cannot differentiate du dx. Let me find du dx here. If I differentiate this, I will have 3s squared with respect to s minus, if I differentiate this, I will have 3y squared minus 4s. If I differentiate this one with respect to s, it will be 0. Also, if I find this one to dv dy, if I differentiate this with respect to, I will have 3s squared. This will be minus 3y squared. And with respect to y, I will have just this. I will also find the square u, because this is where we are going to. The square u ds squared. If I find this, the square u ds squared, I'm going to have, that is, I should differentiate this once again with respect to s. This will be 6s. If I differentiate this, I will have 0. If I differentiate 4s, I will have 4. Also, the square v dy squared, I'm going to have, with respect to y again, this will be 0. What I'm going to have left is just minus 6y, differentiation of this one. So that is that about that. I've differentiated this u with respect to s. I have to differentiate it with respect to y as well. That is the u dy. The u dy, this is 0. If I differentiate this with respect to y, I will have minus 6xy. This is 0. If I differentiate this, I will have 4y. So differentiating once again, that is the square u dy square. If I differentiate it, I will have minus 6x. If I differentiate this, if I differentiate 4y, I will have 4. Similarly, I will do for v. That is, I have found the v dy. I need the v dx as well. The v dx, that is, I should differentiate v with respect to s. This is 6xy. This will be 0. This will be 0. If I differentiate this with respect to s, I will have minus 4y. And the square v ds square will now become, if I differentiate this with respect to s, I will have 6s. This will be 0, because it is with respect to s. So we will now need to check the Laplace equation. That is the square u dx squared plus the square u dy squared. This is the square u dx squared. 6s minus 4 plus the square u dy squared. This is the square u dy squared minus 6s plus 4. You see that it is 0. In that case, u satisfies harmonic function. Therefore, we can say that u is harmonic. Similarly, the square v the s squared plus the square v the y squared. Let's see what it will give. The square v the s squared, this is the square v the s squared, 6s, plus the square v dy squared, this is the square v dy squared here, minus 6y. That minus 6y is equal to 0. Therefore, we can say that v is harmonic too. So since both are harmonic, we can now say that we can conclude that this function is an harmonic function, because u and v satisfy Laplace equation. Okay, let's take another example. Show that this function is harmonic and find the harmonic conjugate v, which makes this f of z to be analytic. So the first thing, let us first show whether this thing is harmonic. Our u is that u is 3s squared minus y cubed. This is, the question is 3s squared y minus 4xy. Now the u dx will give me, if I differentiate this, it will be 6xy minus 4y. If I differentiate with respect to x, also I'll need to differentiate with respect to y. If I differentiate with respect to y, I will have 3s squared. If I differentiate this, I will have 3y squared. If I differentiate with respect to y, I will have minus 4x. Similarly, I need the one for the square u the s squared, because this is where I'm going. If I differentiate with respect to s, I will have 6s. I need the square, this one will be 0. If I differentiate with respect to y, this is 0, this is 0, this is what we are going to have left. This is minus 6y. Okay, this one is 6y, because if I differentiate with respect to x, so that will be, differentiating 6s will be ordinary 6, then the y is here, it is 6y. Therefore, we check the harmonicity. The square u the s squared plus the square u the y squared will be this 6y minus 6y. This is 0. Therefore, you have shown that u is harmonic. But we are not told that we should find the harmonic conjugate v, this v. How do we do this? Whenever we are given something of this nature, we need to make use of the Cauchy-Riemann equation. Since they say that the function is harmonic, is analytic, we recall from Cauchy-Riemann equation that the u dx is equal to the v dy, and the v dx is equal to minus the u dy. From this place, I will have that the v dy is equal to the u ds. I will now substitute the u there. This is our du ds here. I'll substitute, which is 6xy minus 4y. This one. Similarly, the v dx is equal to minus the u dy. I'll substitute the u dy there, but there's minus there. This is the u dy. I'll substitute the minus. That will be minus 3s squared plus 3y squared plus 4s. The minus is affecting the signs there. From this way, I can find my v. Let me say v1, because there are two v. How do we find our v here? This is a differential equation. I'll just need to integrate. This is with respect to y, because if we cross multiply, the y will come here. Let me say this is v2. This one now, it is integration. This is what we call partial integral with respect to x. So if I integrate this with respect to y, we all know how to integrate. This is with respect to y, that will be 6s y squared over 2. This will give me 4y squared over 2. We normally put integral constant, but in this case we don't put integral constant. We can say that we can put f of x. Also, our v2, you will integrate with respect to x. If I integrate with respect to x here, I should have minus s cubed. If I integrate with respect to s, I will have 3s y squared. So this one will be 2s squared. So let's say plus g of y. So finally, we can now find our v. Our v is, we say v1 union v2. So we just need to pack everything together, and the common one, we take 1, as union means this is minus s cubed plus 3s y squared, because if you cancel this, this is 3s y squared. This is minus 2y squared. This one too, plus 2s squared. We don't need the f and g. You can say that plus c. So this is our v. So we have found the harmonic conjugate v. So this one too, will also be harmonic. Now another example, prove that this is harmonic and find the harmonic conjugate u. From this, our v is exponential s sine y. So from this list, I can write it like this, dv ds as vx. If I write vs is differentiation with respect to s, sine y. vxx, that is, I should differentiate once again. This is the square v ds squared. This is still exponential s sine y. Note that vs is partial u partial s and vss is partial square u partial s squared. Also, we need vy. Differentiating with respect to y, I will have exponential s cos y, because if I differentiate sine y, I will have cos y. vyy, if I differentiate this cos y, I will have minus sine y. So our answer is minus exponential s sine y. Therefore, vsx plus vyy is equal to, if you add it together, you see that it is equal to 0. Therefore, v is harmonic. So to find the harmonic conjugate, we now remember the Cauchy-Riemann equation, which says du ds is equal to dv dy, and then du dy is equal to minus dv dx. Now, du dx will be equal to dv dy. We need to pick dv dy. This is dv dy here. Exponential s cos y. Du dy will be minus dv ds. This is our dv ds, so the minus will now be minus exponential s sine y. I can now find my u here. If I find my u, means I will integrate. Let me call it u1 exponential s cos y. That will be with respect to s there, because there's x here. This one too, our u2 will be integral minus exponential s sine y. This is with respect to y. So if I integrate this with respect to s, is still, if I integrate this, it's still exponential s, then cos y, plus, I can say that f of y, anytime we integrate partially with respect to s, we put f of y as constant. u2 will be, if I integrate this one with respect to y, if you integrate sine y, is minus cos y, so the minus will cancel. It will just be exponential s cos y plus, let's say, g of s. But our u that we are looking for is u1 union u2. You see that they are the same thing. So our answer is just exponential s cos y plus c. So that's our u. Therefore, our f of z is u plus iv. That is exponential s cos y plus iv. So our v is this is our v here, exponential s sine y plus c. But this one, we can still further write it as exponential s into cos y plus I sine y plus c. By complex number theory, this one in bracket is same thing as exponential iy. And exponential iy will give me, by indices, I can add up the powers to become this. Therefore, we have seen that our f of z is exponential s plus iy plus c. But we know that s plus iy simply means z plus c. So this is the function f of z. So we have to find u and we have to find f of z. Find u and f of z. So we have found our u. This is our u. This is our f of z. But we still further to deduce this. Another example, find the derivative of analytical function whose real and imaginary parts are given such that this is this. Now, to get this, we first need to differentiate this one with respect to s. the question is, what are we looking for? Derivative of this function. We are looking for this, which is simply means the u ds plus I dv dx. So in this case, we differentiate this equation with respect to x. So if we differentiate it, we have 2 with respect to x. We have 2 du dx plus dv dx equal to, if I differentiate this one with respect to s, I will have exponential s is still exponential s cos y minus sin y, because this one is constant. We are differentiating with respect to x. So let me call it equation 1. Also, if we differentiate with respect to y, this same equation, if you differentiate with respect to y, we are going to have 2 d square u du dy plus dv dy equal to exponential s. We are differentiating with respect to y, so this is only the one we are differentiating now. If I differentiate cos y, I will have minus sin y, and this is sin y, so it will make this place to be minus. So this place will now become sin y plus cos y. Let's call it equation 2. Now, by Cauchy-Riemann equation, we know by Cauchy-Riemann equation that du dx is equal to dv dy, and dv dx is equal to minus du dy. So we need to apply this equation to one of the following. This is the only one we are going to apply to is this one, because what we need is with respect to s. So we need to find a way of eliminating this y. That is why we are applying Cauchy-Riemann equation. So when we apply Cauchy-Riemann equation to this, we are going to have du dy. Du dy is minus dv dx. So this one will become minus 2 dv dx plus dv dy. dv dy is du dx, which is minus exponential s into sin y plus cos y, equation 3. So we now need to solve this equation 1 and equation 3 simultaneously. Now, but I will not need to show that. Solving 1 and 3 simultaneously, we get, we have these two. This is our du ds. That is, we solve these two simultaneously. We need to find out the u and ds, the u ds and the v ds separately. So when we do that, you need to do it yourself. We solve the simultaneous equation. We got the u ds to be this, and we got the v ds to be this. But what are we looking for? We are looking for f prime of z, which is this, the u ds plus I dv ds. So this is our du ds here. This is exponential s over 5 into cos y minus 3 sin y plus I dv ds exponential s over 5 into sin y plus 3 cos y. So this is our answer, but we can still further. Our f prime of z can still be written as, observe that exponential x over 5 is common. Let's bring them out. What we are going to have left is cos y minus 3 sin y plus the I will multiply the ones inside. I sin y plus 3I cos y. This is 1 over 5 exponential s into this, and this will come together, and these two will come together, so that we are going to have cos y plus I sin y plus 3 into this one, I cos y minus sin y. So if we still further, we can still write it like this. Cos y plus I sin y. Without stressing ourselves, we should know that that one is exponential iy plus 3 into, for us to express this one in terms of this, you just bring the I out. If you bring the I out, it will be cos y here. This minus here will become plus I sin y, because if you expand, I times cos y is cos y, I cos y, I times I sin y is minus sin y. So from this place, we have 1 over 5 exponential s into exponential iy plus, this should be 3i. This one too is exponential iy. Exponential iy is common. I can bring it out. If I bring it out, I will have exponential iy into 1 plus 3i. So this is now 1 plus 3i over 5. If you apply indices here, we have exponential s plus iy. But this one simply means z. Finally, our answer is 1 plus 3i over 5 exponential z. So that is the final answer to the question. Once again, you can picture it. The Laplace equation we are talking about under harmonic conjugate, harmonic function. We said if you have something of this nature, this is Laplace equation. So this thing can be written in terms of this square u equal to 0. So that means I can write grad. This thing means grad square. So that means I can write the grad square as the square the s squared plus the square the y squared. In that case, our grad will now be written as d dx plus I dy. You can write it like this. So that means our grad square will be written in this format. So let's take example on something of this nature. We want to show that grad square u raised to power p is equal to this. Now, I'll start from u raised to power p. Let's say the u raised to power p. We know that if you differentiate it, p is a value, p is a number. So we can write it as, if I differentiate this thing, we can write it as d dx, du into u raised to power p du ds. Why are we doing it like this? Because we are having the x here and this is not x. That means you cannot differentiate directly. We have to apply chain rule. That is the reason why we have turned this x to u. So that at the end of the day, if we cancel this du, we are still writing what is here. Now, if you now differentiate this, this will give me pu du dx. Sorry, if you differentiate, it will be p minus 1. That is, you bring down p u raised to power p minus 1. So in that case, if you differentiate once again, the square the s squared u raised to power p. So this one is same thing as d dx into the up dx. But we have known this has been given here to be p u raised to power p minus 1 du dx. Similarly, we observe that we cannot differentiate this directly. Firstly, we are going to apply product rule. That is, we take this, we differentiate it. That is, pu raised to power p minus 1 du dx So d ds du dx plus, I'll take the u dx, then I'll differentiate this one, p u raised to power p minus 1. This is product rule. From that place, we have p u raised to power p minus 1. If you differentiate this, it will give you the square u dx squared plus the u dx. If we differentiate this with respect to s, we can't differentiate it. I have to turn it to u the way I did this, so that it will be p into p minus 1 u raised to power p minus 2 du ds, just like what we did there. So at the end of the day, we are going to have p into p minus 1 u raised to power p minus 2, these two, the square u dx square in two places. That will be all, you can write it as all squared plus p u raised to power p minus 1 the square u dx squared. So that is for the square. So we have done this. Similarly, without stressing ourselves, if you follow the same pattern, you see that we are going to have the square up, but you have to show us how you get this one too. Similarly, we are going to have something of this nature too, p into p minus 1. You don't jump when you are giving in exam. You need to show me how you get it. Du dy all squared plus p u raised to power p minus 1 the square u dy square. So this is what we are going to get. So in that case, grad square u raised to power p will now be addition of these two. That is the square u raised to power p ds squared plus the square u raised to power p dy squared. So, and adding it, let's add it together. If we add it, what are we going to have? These two are the same thing. So we are going to have p into p minus 1 u raised to power p minus 2. This will be the square u ds squared, or the square the u ds all squared, the u dy all squared. That is for these two. And for the second one too, we are going to have plus p u raised to power p minus 1 into the square u ds squared. These two, we are adding it, plus the square u dy squared. Once again, when we add these two together, you see that these are common. So we have brought it out here, and it remains these two inside. But by harmonic function, this one is 0. By harmonic, we know that for harmonic function, this one here is 0. In that case, it will vanish the whole expression here. This is what we are going to have left. So we can now say that the square u raised to power p is equal to p into p minus 1 u raised to power p minus 2, just like what we have here, into the u dx all squared plus the u dy all squared. Let me call it star. I need to quickly bring out something here. We know that if f of z is u plus iv, then absolute value of f of z is simply u square plus v square. Therefore, if f prime of z is the u dx plus I dv dx, therefore absolute value of f prime of z will simply be the u dx all squared plus the u dy all squared. So this is what we are going to have. So I can now relate it to this one. Therefore, grad square u raised to power p is equal to p into p minus 1 u raised to power p minus 2. You now observe that we have it here, this thing. I can just write it as f prime of z absolute value. So we have proved this result that they asked us to prove here. Your material and the solution is still the same process, it's the same thing. The one I prove is just generalization of it. The one I showed now is generalization of what we are showing. So you can practice.